UFC Fight Night, Emmett versus Vallejos is over. Here's my experience.
I see my haters proud of me now. When I'm around, it's all smiles. I took over my whole time.
Alright, to kick this card off, I'll give this card a solid 7 out of 10. There's some really fun fights on this card, and I feel like we got some future superstars that fought on this card. But to kick this card off, we had Pierre Rodriguez taking on Sam Hughes, and Pierre Rodriguez absolutely ran through Sam Hughes. This is not the Sam Hughes that I thought was going to come into this fight on a 3-fight winning streak. It looked like Pierre Rodriguez was absolutely dominant from bell to bell. It looked like she won every single exchange in this fight. This rematch, Sam Hughes looked like she was outgunned, and Pierre Rodriguez put on a really good performance against her. Following that fight, we had a fight to remind you that all bantamweight fighters are extremely fast, and they're going to throw with extreme power and trying to knock each other out. We had Hector Souza taking on Luan Lacerda, and this fight, it was an absolute war. An absolute war. I'm not really sure how this fight went to the decision, but them boys was throwing hard at each other the entire time. How this man was able to eat that knee, I have no idea. I think that puts out a lot of bantamweights in this division, but I will say it looked a lot like the Sean O'Malley versus Chito Vera knee, and he did not knock him out either, but Chito Vera just has a really strong chin. But that fight was a really fun one, and I think Hector Souza is somebody that we should be watching out for in the future. Taking on Montez Rondon, in this fight, Bia Mesquita is looking like a problem at bantamweight. She hurt her bad on the feet and then was able to find the home for her rear naked choke. I don't know who she was going to get next, but I think it's time for her to get some ranked opportunities. And I know she's only 7-0, but she is a little on the older side at 35 years old. And I think we need to see her fight some better competition sooner rather than later. And I cannot wait to see who Bia gets next. In the battle of the unks, we had Eric, your boy Anders, taking on Brad Tavares. In this fight, I'm very surprised Eric Anders was able to keep that pace for all 3 rounds. And his last fight in the UFC of his MMA career as he retires at the number 20 in the UFC. Not a lot of fighters get there to the 20th fight in their career, and Eric Anders ended off on a really high note, beating Brad Tavares. I'm not really sure how Brad Tavares was able to survive that and make it to the decision, because he was getting beat up pretty much the entire fight. But shout out to Eric Anders, and hell of a career he had in the UFC. Following that fight, we had a performance of the night. We had Manuel Souza taking on Balaji Oki. In this fight, Manuel Souza is able to get the 3rd round finish, and he is looking like a very good prospect. The 2nd round, not too good, but the 1st round, he looked damn good in it, and Manuel Souza is able to continue his finishing streak in the 3rd round nonetheless, which I don't hate it. A finish is a finish. It don't really matter when it comes, but Manuel Souza is successful in his UFC debut against Balaji Oki. Balaji Oki drops to 1-3 in the UFC. Do we see him again? I don't know. After that fight, we had another really fun prospect at 135 pounds. We had Elijah Smith taking on Su Young Yu. In this fight, Elijah Smith was tested early in the grappling department by Yu. In the 2nd round, he said, you know what? We're not going to do that. I'm going to hurt you in the feet, and I'm going to get you down, and I'm going to strangle you. And that's exactly what he did. Elijah Smith continues his undefeated run, and he's able to finish. He's able to continue his finishing streak in the UFC, making him back-to-back finishes, back-to-back really impressive performances. I'm not really sure who he gets next. He should probably get somebody right there on the bubble of the top 15, but I think Elijah Smith is going to have a really, really good 2026. And I cannot wait to see who he gets in his next fight, because I will be watching. Then following that, this fight gave me some hope for the heavyweight division, the only heavyweight fight on the card. We have Victor Petrino taking on Steven Asplout. This is what I want to see in a heavyweight fight. Rock 'em, sock 'em, slug 'em out, fist fight wars. This fight was an absolute war, and I absolutely loved every single second of it. Steven Asplout dropped Victor Petrino multiple times, but Victor Petrino was able to make Steven Asplout look like the thing off of Goonies. It was an awesome fight, a really good fight. I'm really shocked it wasn't the fight of the night, but I'm pretty sure Dana White and those guys took care of those, because that fight was really entertaining from bell to bell. 2 heavyweights that wasn't tired by the 3rd round. It's not something you see every day in the UFC right now. So Steven Asplout and Victor Petrino, they might be bringing in a new wave of heavyweights, and I applaud them for that, because heavyweight has been on life support these last couple of years, and some more fights like this will help it out tremendously. In the prelim main event of the night, we have Mick the Big Orba taking on Chris Curtis, and in this fight, Chris Curtis said it's hard to fight somebody who's not there to fight. Mick the Big Orba got 19 takedowns. And they wasn't like, oh my God, I'm just dragging you down takedowns. They was full force putting this man on his head takedowns. They was aggressive takedowns. He wasn't just sitting there dragging you down. Like, he actually had to work for it, and he actually put damage on your body, taking you down. I'm not really sure why he said that, because even when he was on the ground, he was getting beat up by punches on the ground. It's not like Mick the Big Orba was just holding him. So it is what it is. That Mick the Big Orba, very, very dominant win over Chris Curtis. I'm not really sure what Chris Curtis does going forward, but Miktabek Orbai, ever since moving up to welterweight, has been an absolute monster, and I cannot wait to see who he gets next. He should probably get somebody else in the top 15. Opening up the main card, we had Charles Johnson taking on Bruno Silva. In this fight, it was a split decision win for Charles Johnson, and I don't hate the decision. I think it could have went either way. Bruno Silva was the way more aggressive fighter in this fight, but I feel like Charles Johnson was able to land the more powerful shots in this exchanges that they had. But Bruno Silva did look damn good in this fight. It was very surprising to me, but Charles Johnson also did say he hurt his foot like 2 months before or 2 weeks before the camp or the fight. So I don't really know how well Bruno Silva would have actually done if Charles Johnson was completely healthy. And I know that fighters don't really ever be completely healthy, but still, I think it would have been a whole different fight if Charles Johnson's in that fight 85%, 95% healthy. Now, following that fight, I think we have a hype train that has been fully derailed. We had Ian Cutelaba taking on Umar Sy. In this fight, that man, Ian Cutelaba, just said, you know what? I'm not going to try here and deal with you a little bit. I'm going to blitz you, and I'm going to run right past you. That man, Ian Cutelaba, was able to get the single-arm guillotine from Mount on Umar Sy, somebody who I thought was going to have a massive wrestling advantage in this fight, and it just looked like Umar Sy was in there with somebody that... And it's just like Umar Sy was an amateur in there with a 10-fight pro. And this man, Ian Cutelaba, I'm not sure who he gets next, but ever since early in his career where he was just one of those berserkers, I'm going to war every single time, he's just been depending on his wrestling recently, and it's been working out really, really well for him. So shout out to Ian Cutelaba and Umar Sy. I'm not really sure what the UFC is going to have planned for him next. In the fight of the night, we have Maran Freaky Rahiki taking on Harry Hardwick. In this fight, it was an absolute 2-round war. It was an absolute war for 2 rounds. I'm not really sure how Harry Hardwick was able to survive the 2nd round going to the stool. Obviously, the fight was stopped by the referee and by the corner, which I don't blame him because his jaw is destroyed. So with that being said, Maran Rahiki is going to be one of the more exciting fighters in the UFC this year, and I cannot wait to see who he gets next, because that man, from the 2 fights I've seen of his from live, like point A to point B, his Dana White Contender Series fight and his UFC debut, this man is one of the more exciting fighters on the UFC roster, and I cannot wait to see who the Freaky Rahiki gets next, because he is one of those fighters that will make me sit down and watch it if his name is on the marquee, and I can't imagine it's going to be very long before he's back in there. So shout out to those 2. Really good fight. Following that fight, we have another split decision that I'm not 100% on the train of. We had Andre Fili taking on Jose Delgado. In this fight, Jose Delgado was able to edge the victory over Andre Fili. I feel like Andre Fili won the fight. I feel like he won the 1st and the 3rd. I'm pretty sure I might have to go back and watch the fight again, because I'm pretty sure in the 1st round, Andre Fili dropped him. I think that's guaranteed his round. Besides that, Jose Delgado didn't really do nothing. He was just walking forward and trying to punch him. But then, 2nd and 3rd round, I had to go watch it again. But I feel like, if I remember correctly, I felt like Andre Fili won the fight. But it is what it is. Jose Delgado is back on the winning track. Shout out to him. And Andre Fili is continuing to give his prospects a very tough time coming up in the rankings. So shout out to them. It was a co-main event of the night. We had Jillian Robertson taking on Amanda Lemos. In this fight, Amanda Lemos was able to win the 1st round by pretty much stifling Jillian Robertson's wrestling. The entire 1st round. Then the 2nd and 3rd round, Jillian Robertson said, you know what? I can wrestle. I can push past your guard, and I can dominate this fight. That's exactly what she did. The Canadian was absolutely dominant in the last 2 rounds, and it was a very clear-cut decision, in my opinion. Shout out to Jillian Robertson. She is now in the top 5 of the strawweight division. I don't know who she gets next, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be somebody within the top 5 above her. Maybe even a title shot. But what do you guys think? Let me know. In the main event of the night, we had Kevin Vallejos taking on Josh Emmett. Kevin Vallejos in his first main event versus one of the more powerful punchers in UFC history in Josh Emmett, and he made it look easy. He made Josh Emmett look too easy. Josh Emmett came in there with swinging massive overhands, and one of those would have connected. I think Kevin Vallejos would have been asleep on the octagon, but would have carries a lot of weight in that sentence, because none of them did, and Kevin Vallejos was just able to overwhelm Josh Emmett and finish the fight in the very 1st round. Kevin Vallejos is now moving into the top 10 at featherweight. I'm not really sure who he gets next, but I know that his John Silva rematch will be coming. Probably not this year, but next year, I think that's that fight is going to be an absolute war like it was the first time, and I cannot wait to see it whenever Kevin Vallejos gets himself into the opportunity to get that rematch. But what did you guys think about this video? What was your favorite fight of the night? What was your biggest surprise of the night? Let me know down below in the comments. And like always, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you, people. Peace.